Hello and welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, episode 57. I'm Kurt.
Nightson.
Oh, shit.
Handor.
Oreztes.
EndofLine.
EndofLine.
Oh, and I guess I am standing in for Gidget, and nobody thought to mention that. And tonight's spotlight topic will be on character generation, and specifically figuring out what this fool did for his recent game.
Yeah, I'm super excited to hear about that.
That's an accurate title.
EndofLine, do we have any announcements?
Let me see. Do we? Yes, we do. We have our next Suede game, which is our Supernatural Investigation Program SIP. It's going to be on Tuesday, July the 9th at 6 p.m. Tuesday, July 9th at 6 p.m. will be our follow-up, our next episode of SIP.
Agents of SIP.
Agents of SIP. Yeah, go back and watch our last episode where one of our cast members gets murdertated.
Yeah.
Totally meditated.
No spoilers, though.
I should say this, though. No formal announcements yet, but we do have some Pixel Scandal side quests coming. So we do have a few games in the plans that we'll be announcing probably next week. Maybe we'll have a...
Yeah, we'll have a formal announcement for him next week for sure.
Yeah.
Did we do the sign-up thing for that yet?
I know it will be on July 27th is our next one at 9 a.m. That's a Saturday. And that will be with Kimmy of Happy Jacks RPG.
We have not done signups for who's playing in those games.
Yeah, we'll figure that out off this.
Cool.
All right. Moving right along to what we're excited with. What is Radio Free Wolf, Scum, and Villainy? And that just seems like a run-on sentence.
So, well, it wasn't meant to be read. So there's a scholarship program for Big Bad Con called to help get more people to come to Big Bad Con. And Ken Davidson is putting together Radio Free Wolf, which is a fundraiser for people to donate to that scholarship. So yesterday and today, they are streaming on various streams. You can find out all of the different streams that people will be streaming by going to crowdrise.com. Oh, you know what? I'm going to put it in the chat, and we'll link it in the show notes because that is not going to be easy to find. But yeah, so tonight at 8 p.m. PST, I will be playing Scum and Villainy with Sean Hayworth, and a bunch of cool people, someone from the One Shot Network, a bunch of people that are frequent at Big Bad Con. So it's going to be good times. So come by, watch that. We'll be hosting it here on Pixel Scandal. So if you don't want to find Sean Hayworth's Twitch, you can come here and then get there from here. But that's tonight at Sunday, 8 p.m. PST.
And maybe Kurt will figure out what a comma is and how useful it is for separating two concepts.
Well, when you just make notes for yourself.
All right. So I was interneting last night, and this apparently was announced back in February, but apparently nobody else here knew it either. But Altered Carbon got signed for a season 2. Super stoked because I absolutely love the first season.
Yeah.
Spoiler. Obviously, he doesn't get his body back at the end, so he's on to a new one. The Falcon is going to be the new main character.
I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've never seen Altered Carbon or heard about it, or I know absolutely nothing about it. So now I feel like he doesn't get his body back. Is like, what the hell what is this show about?
How did you not watch that?
I don't know.
You should 100% watch it, dude. You would love it.
Yeah, it's very good.
I've already watched all of season 3 of Stranger Things. I don't know, like it's still just. It's been out for.
Yeah,
I won't say anything.
Haven't seen it yet.
Don't worry, I won't say anything.
I have not finished season 3 yet. I started it. I got through like an episode and a half.
Other than the fact that it's great.
We're on episode 4, I think. I'm watching it with Larry.
But yeah, Ultra Carbon season 2 is going to be February of next year, so it's still a bit of ways off, but it's confirmed it exists, and it's got Falcon.
Yeah,
yay!
I really enjoyed the first Altered Carbon.
Hell yeah. Dude.
Well, yeah, we need more Cyberpunk.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it was good.
I'm hoping Cyberpunk, the game, is going to stir the genre like hardcore when everyone fucking loves it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that game looks good.
All right, what is Terraria H?
I just put the H there because it's
Oh, okay.
Handor.
Oh, okay.
That's not how you spell that. So Terraria, I've been playing that a lot because they mentioned the last update for it, which is called Journey's End. It's gonna have like 800 and some new items, so on and so forth. Some new bosses, and I don't know. It's a side scroller Minecraft, and I love that shit. So gotta get in there.
I do think it's funny that game has had at least 3 final updates.
Final updates, right? Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. I think
that was like
3 developers. And
I was gonna say I think it was like 1 guy or 2 guys or whatnot.
Yeah.
And
I think it was
they walked away.
Friends.
Yeah, they was just like, yeah, we've done everything we want to do with this, and they walked away. And then they made a shit ton of money, and they're like, all right, well, obviously we should make some more. And they continue to make it.
The hardcore fans keep saying, there's a ton of mods and stuff like that. Modders are, keeping the game alive, and so every now and then these guys, probably a lot like us, get suckered, back into something like classic WoW. It's something you said you'd never touch again, but here we are. We're gonna fucking load that subscription up.
What I don't get is what's the business model? I can't imagine him selling copies, that many new copies, and they're not selling DLC. This is free content, right?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know, because it is like the largest. I was watching a whole little spiel on it. It's like the biggest downloaded game ever, or something like that. Something ridiculous. And I don't know. There's a big. I don't know. People are still playing it.
No, I'm not saying people playing it. It's just surprising me. Anyone who I'm surprised there are people out there who would like to play Terraria who have not already played Terraria.
Yeah. I think they made a good surge of money because they released it for mobile. And also it's on Switch now too.
Okay, I did not know that. Okay, never mind. Every single person rebought it on the Switch.
Yeah, and I mean it's perfect for Switch too.
Yeah.
Oh, and so I think one of the developers, I can't remember which, I'm gonna get if anybody ever watches this, I'll get roasted for it later. But one of the developers left, and he's the one that created Starbound, which is the
it's basically the space Terraria ripoff.
Yeah.
I still need to play that. That's been sitting in my library for a million years.
It looks fun.
Starbound is the game that you can use to exploit the Steam summer sale event and level up your Steam account to like 1 billion, like real quick.
Okay. I will keep that in mind.
Yeah, you just download the add-on that gives you experience for drinking sodas.
Kurt's gonna beep that
out. All right. So are you guys still playing that Harry Potter Pokemon Go thingamajig?
No,
I'm not.
Nope.
Yeah, that was a flash in the pan, right?
Okay, so
Super was.
Oh, so who put it in here then?
I have no idea.
Was it just to stay over for when this was last week's topic?
Probably. Yeah.
I played it until I ran out of magic energy and found out the only way to get it back was to stay at an inn. But like, I don't walk around outside, and when we're driving by it,
it's too fast.
I'm not fast enough to recover. So I'm just like, I'm out of energy. I'm done.
It's cool. It's neat, but it's not good for long term.
It'll be something for like super Harry Potter fans, because you get the little like the Snapchat face filter things, but they're Harry Potter themed, right? You kind of unlock those as you go, and then there's stuff like that in there. So yeah, it's Pokemon Go, but for Harry Potter.
Yeah. They were playing it obsessively like 2 weeks ago, and apparently it's already dead. So
yeah, I think I played it 3 days in a row, and then I forgot to open it again and haven't been back.
All right. Well, myself and Oreztes are still playing the crap out of Final Fantasy XIV. I just finished the MSQ, and holy crap! Like I will say, hands down, the story is not a good MMO story. It is a good like game story. It is probably one of the better Final Fantasy stories that has ever been penned, as it were.
Okay.
Yeah, it is super interesting.
I only have to get through like 150 hours of subpar story to get to it.
I found out that you can buy story skips for each expansion individually. So if you can make it through 15 more ARR expansions, I will totally go in and buy you the Heaven's Ward and Stormblood story skip potions.
So I can play the new expansion.
You can go straight to the good stuff.
Back to the good part. All right.
Super fun.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody, but it is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only thing about it for me, it's not a fun game. It's a fun story, right? Like the MSQ is a fun story to get through, and so like that can be engaging, but it gets really old when it's just like go here, talk to homie, he's gonna send some box text at you. Go back, talk to homie, he's gonna give you some box text. All right, now go back over here and talk to this other person, and there's no like. You get through like 30 of those, and it's like, hey, kill 5 mobs. And you're like, oh, finally, I get to play the game a little bit. But it is kind of cool. Right. It's a good story, finally.
Yeah.
Jeez, you're already getting me burned out on Classic.
Good, keep it up. Classic is trash. I'm telling you right now, Classic is trash.
Hashtag hot take.
No, hashtag somebody who's played it when it was fucking legit. Classic is trash.
As far as Classic goes, I wish we had the Blizzard that was 5 years ago that actually announced their numbers, because I would love to see the numbers that they announce when it goes live and the numbers 1 quarter later. I'm honestly curious how many people will actually stick with it once they realize, oh, this is Classic.
It will be wildly successful, and it will be wildly successful because someone did an account of how many people are actively playing on private servers that are anxiously going to play this on Classic. And that alone is overwhelmingly enough substantiated.
Well, keep in mind, keep people playing on free servers.
Yeah.
Free servers is the
private
key
servers aren't they usually you don't
How many people are willing to
those.
pay $15 a month for that privilege?
Probably most of them.
Well, they're addicts, so...
We'll come back to this topic. Let's say 3 months after Classic launches, and we'll be like, "Man, can you guys believe how much of a dumpster fire it is right now?"
There's nothing to substantiate it being a dumpster fire, considering the beta to 30 has been very successful and very well received. I can't imagine the 30 to 50 is going to be much bigger.
Alternatively, we'll be talking in 3 months about how it's so wildly successful that MapleStory is doing Classic reboot.
Dude, don't even if they don't relaunch when I'm rioting.
Well, they're already re-releasing what was the Dreamcast game, Phantasy Star Online. They're doing a Phantasy Star Online reboot.
PSO2 is coming to America.
Yeah, that's technically reboot or releasing for Western audiences.
Maybe that's what it was. But a lot of people are excited about that, so it's cool.
I lost a lot of hours into PlayStation or Phantasy Star Online 1. So
on Dreamcast? With your Game Shark knolling people in town. Did you do that too? Because man, that was so much fun.
That was way too easy to cheat.
Megid duels were always my favorite.
Yep. No.
All right. What is Wasteland Express, and why should we care that you're playing it?
Oh yeah, Wasteland Express is a board game where you play truck drivers in the wasteland.
You finally played that again?
Yeah, we played it. Gidget and the kid and I, we got to play it. It's actually a lot better with less players. Because there's so much going on in a turn that more players really slows it down. So I would say like 3 to 4 is probably max. I think we tried to push it.
I think we played max table size.
Yeah, whatever that is, and it felt like too much. Especially learning the game for the first time. This time we kind of had an idea of what the game was going to be like. It was less players. We kind of breezed through a lot of stuff. I think it was really fun. Like I really enjoyed the game. The mechanics are really interesting once you kind of get an idea of what they should be. Gidget won, but I was like 2 moves away from winning, so it didn't feel like like someone won by a landslide, right? Like we felt like we were fairly even, which is always a good feeling when you lose a game. Like you almost had it.
My issues was the game was cool. It was very interesting concepts. Turns were long, and there was no interactivity between turns, and so it always felt like, okay, I'm just going to check out here for the next 10 minutes. Let me know it's my turn again, which is never a feeling you want in a board game to keep engagement up or keep people playing. So yeah, less players would probably definitely help that.
Yeah, because of course, it's less time before you get to act again. Also, knowing the rules, like everyone kind of having a grasp of the rules helped, because turns went a little quicker.
Not to mention, board state doesn't change as much, so you could actually.
Yeah, you could plan a lot better, and you don't have to you're not relying on, oh shoot, someone just totally screwed my plan right before my turn, and now I have to rethink everything I was going to do. So
yeah.
But yeah, it was good. The art on that game is great. The packaging is my favorite thing about the game, which is a weird thing to say about a board game that I enjoyed playing, but it comes with all of these trays that perfectly hold every little piece and are fit perfect in the thing. And there's a bunch of little mods that you can buy for your truck. And they live in the mod shop case, which has stickers on it, so it looks like a cool mod shop, and the plastic is bubbled, right? So it has the mod shop logo, looks all cool on there. So it just feels good playing it. Everything is really neat, and it's really thematic. So
there's definitely something to be said about a board game company that really goes the extra mile in putting the what's it called?
Production value?
Well, but being able to restore and organize into a box.
Yeah.
Packaging is largely
this is the best packaging I've seen in a game. It even comes with little trays for all the cards, so you can keep all your decks separate, but they stack into each other. And the plastic molding in the box says 3 card decks go here, 3 card decks go here. Everything's labeled. It's super cool.
Yeah. Anytime you don't have to pull out a baggie or a bunch of baggies to store all your parts is a win.
Or pay $70 for a box of witchcraft.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those boxes of witchcraft are pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. It turned that game into a game that I probably wouldn't play again into an actual fun experience. So,
oh yeah, I bet that's probably part of why people say, "Oh, setup takes so long for Gloomhaven," is because they don't have the box of witchcraft. Because all you do is you just pull out the trays, everything's nicely organized where it needs to be. So yeah, that game would take forever.
Turning $150 game into a $220 game,
true,
is definitely cost prohibitive for a lot of people.
Well, think about it this way. You paid $220 when that game first came out, and it was impossible to get. People were paying much more than that for just the base game.
Yeah.
I saw it in stores a couple times for at least $250.
Yikes. Well, it's a good game. I don't know if it's worth $250, but it's definitely worth the $220, I bet. With the box of witchcraft.
The big thing with it was that it was the first of its kind that was capable of allowing you to do what it does.
Yeah, it has a lot of progression, and I love games that have memory, right? And it even has a little bit of memory, with the stickers on the map and getting rid of cards and stuff. So it's good.
We gotta plan another night.
Yep. Well, one of these days we're gonna have all of the boxes unpacked in our in that back room, and then that's when the board games are gonna go hot and heavy.
Yeah. All right. Looks like someone jumped the gun and started playing ESO this last week.
Yep. I had the same complaint as Kurt, really, about Final Fantasy XIV. I wasn't not enjoying the game, but the MSQ just completely fried me. I was finding myself playing for 45 minutes and falling asleep, just running from cutscene to cutscene without really any engagement. And it just kind of burned me out. I will definitely return to it. I 100% know I will. Probably even next week, try and get through my MSQ so I can do some of the in-game stuff. Because I was enjoying Dancer like shit. Absolutely incredible class. Had a blast. But because I was burnt out, I decided, we had been talking about ESO, and one of our buddies was looking for something else to play and didn't really have an interest in Final Fantasy 14. And we had previously chatted that we were going to try ESO in the future, so decided to install it and just fuck around with it for a day. And yeah, I'm hooked. It's really it's actually better than I was hoping it would be. I had pretty moderate expectations for it, but it's kind of crushed those things, and we're both having an actual lot of fun. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, everywhere I read says that basically it is one of the remaining MMO contenders.
Yeah. I got to be honest. If you ask me, it's still that kind of like new thing. So I don't, it's still got that shiny newness to it. So rose tinted glasses and everything. But I would say it's a better game than World of Warcraft is right now as far as the single player experience. 100%. The quests are engaging. They're interesting. They're voice acted. The storylines are cool. I'm finding myself actually not spamming through quests and actually reading them and listening to them because they don't suck and they're well written. Most of the quests are not, hey, go do a thing, come back to me and get XP. Even the side quests are like chains, like 5 and 6 part quests. It's kind of nuts. Sometimes just like, oh my god, can I please just get this experience? And then it's like, no, carry on. Now you're gonna go into this delve and kill this guy. And it's like, oh god. But the classes are definitely the most interesting thing. It's one of those build your own class things. There's of course meta builds, but I think for us, we found builds that seemed interesting to us, and we're building them. But I've already thought of a class I want to play that's kind of off meta that I think is really interesting, and it's going to be like a lifesteal assassin to do PvP. But yeah, it's good. I will definitely continue playing it, and I know that you guys will eventually check it out. And when you guys do, I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy it.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, I am stuck on Final Fantasy until at least 5.1 because I need to do this Nier raid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nier Automata is so amazing, and they're doing a crossover.
Oh,
That's really cool.
that is pretty cool.
It actually kind of fits thematically too.
Yeah, I just want that B2 costume for my glamour.
All right. So with that, let's move on to our spotlight topic. And as kind of discussed earlier, we wanted to discuss character gen, both concepts of how to run it and different ways to go about it, and also kind of touch base with Handor on his first real session, and he did some character gen for his game with his friends after we I think we did do an episode on how to build up a game for him, and what kind of options he had and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, how to choose an RPG system.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the part 2 of that as well.
Yeah.
So, do we want to start with Handor? Do you want to give us a recap of how it went?
Yeah, I can give you a quick rundown. So, we decided on Fate, to use Fate Core. It was this, going to be the best option for us because it just really, really lended to what I was trying to build.
What's the premise for the game you're running?
Okay, so the premise was there are vampires in the world, and they are bad guys, and they're using. So it's a post-apocalyptic. Zombies are involved, and vampires also exist in the world, but the zombies were treated as equal among civilization. They were to the point where zombies had equal treatment to anyone else.
Okay.
They weren't just like roaming around eating brains or anything, but at the same time they weren't like it was bad to be to no one was like going around saying bad things about zombies or like deport the zombies or anything like that, right? So
Okay.
Zombies had like this equal standing, and so
Petes?
what?
Petes? People for the ethical treatment of zombies?
Exactly. Yes.
So they're like Santa Clarita Diet zombies, where they're still high functioning zombies.
For the most part, yeah. In a
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
And what the storyline that I created is that there was a group of people who wanted to prevent vampires from doing this testing behind the scenes, that was essentially illegal, to zombies to create an absolute immortality, that would prevent them from being, being stabbed in the heart with a stake wouldn't kill them.
Okay, so they're doing medical testing on zombies, and people are up in
Yeah.
arms about it. Okay,
All right.
all right.
Well, nobody really knew about it, and it was the job of my crack team to
Investigate.
find out to investigate the situation.
Okay.
And yeah, so as I'm trying to get them all sit around, I think I had the most people I've ever had here for game night that night. I had 8 people.
8 people.
And
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
yeah. So character gen was
I'm getting a real
It was a
Daybreakers
thing.
vibe off of this.
it was crazy. And as much as I didn't drop any hints whatsoever what the game was about, outside of just saying that it wasn't like real super fantasy. I had just said that it was post-apocalyptic. I might have mentioned that there were zombies involved or something like that. And
Okay.
I think they spent 4 hours creating characters.
Okay.
Well, 8 people. That's
Yeah,
not too crazy.
8 people with Fate. Fate is a little bit longer character creation. So.
It was really enjoyable because the characters they created, I had set them up in an office building, and it was called, oddly enough, I had done a Google fake business name generator,
Okay.
and its name generator was MAYZ record company. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I gotta go with that. Obviously none of my friends are gonna believe that was randomly generated, but we'll run with that. And as a joke to myself, I was like, they're gonna think it's a record company, but it's actually like a bookkeeping, like they keep records on file company.
Okay.
But they all, as soon as I had told them, so you all work for an organization, in a business, in a building, and it's called, blank, Maze Record Company, whatever. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, not records, but like records, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, fine, sure, whatever, and as they went around the table creating their characters, they basically did everything that I would have imagined would have been a nightmare, which was to create perfect characters for a campaign. Like I had a dude he said he was the janitor, but as the janitor, he was the cleaner,
Mm-hmm.
And then I had 2 guys that said they were brothers, but they were the security for the company, and they just happened to be like really religious, so they always had like
crosses and stuff.
and I'm like, what? Why do you
Anti-vampire implements?
Why do you have that? I had one dude say he was going to be a hacker, but he worked as the IT guy for the company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, whatever, man. This game's over. I'm running to run away from it at character gen.
That sounds amazing, though. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
So you had a session 0, basically. You had everybody get together and create their characters as a group, kind of talk it out. Did you have any like conflicts where people wanted to play something and there was like, oh, I wanted to do that? Or did you have things where you saw problems get solved by the players themselves? Like maybe if they'd created their characters separately and come.
There. No, there was certainly surprisingly zero conflict as far as character gen went. Everybody was really kind of just creatively trying to find their own niche within this corporation. Actually, one of the dudes that I forgot to mention, which was super ironic, which was one of the guys said that he wanted to be, for some reason, he had his own lab in a closed off section of this place, right? And he was a lab technician that worked like covert within the company. I'm like, why are you a scientist doing covert shit in my company? I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. I mean, so
I feel like your players came in thinking they were about to play Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it feels like we're building a Resident Evil team, right?
Yeah. Stars.
Yeah.
That'd make an amazing game, by the way.
Yeah.
It was crazy ironic. It was a lot of fun. There was, like I said, there was no clash of like, everybody kind of wanted to find their niche really bad, I think is what it was, which was, good.
It's a hard thing with 8 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was surprising, but I mean, outside of them trolling me, like, because we're all friends. This is my first game. A lot of like the guys would be like, I'm gonna have my I can't remember what it's called in Fate now, but like my superpower is gonna be it's gonna be called Gang Gang. I'm like, no, it can't be called Gang Gang. You can't just, that's not, I'm like, no, I'm gonna red flag that. That's not like so they would just constantly be like,
so you like they were having trouble making aspects, like they were trying to make them too funny.
No, they were just trolling me.
Oh,
like,
okay.
they had full capacity of making, they're all nerds. They know, they could think of stuff. They just really wanted to troll me.
Yeah. So Fate, I mean, different games are going to have different levels of like mechanics you have to understand to make a character. Like if you're making a D&D 3.5 character, it's going to be, 3 weeks pouring over books because you have analysis paralysis and you have to make like 50 characters and then pick the 10 that you like the most and then just bring all those. Or if if you're playing something that's sort of indie, then there's probably not a lot of mechanics you have to understand. It's just answer these 5 questions and boom, your character's done. I think Fate falls a little more on that crunchy side. Like there's a little more to understand to Fate. Fate Core is not as bad as the Dresden Files version of Fate that we played, but it's still like there's skill lists that you kind of have to go through and pick. There's I think 5 aspects in Fate Core, right?
Yep.
That you have to sort of write these catchphrases that are your character. And then, of course, there's the stunts, right? Is that what you're talking about with the powers, the superpowers? So you have these stunts that you have to write. So that's a little more, and it puts a lot more on the player because instead of picking from a list of stunts, you're sort of building your stunts based on what you think your character could do. So Fate falls on that, like, you definitely need that session 0 because it takes a lot more energy to build the character, a lot more creative energy anyways, versus the, 3-5 pouring through tons of books to find the perfect matching feat tree or whatever.
Well, it's not to mention, it's building your aspects is definitely weird your first time as it is because it's very easy to stumble in and create aspects that are not appropriate or don't fit or won't be relevant.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, and it's so crazy because I don't know if it's just because they're my friends and they know me, or they're capable of ESP, but they all wrote, and they were all like legitimate character traits that like a person would have who was a janitor or whatever, but they were able to spin them in a way that was super suitable to exact
for tagging and things like that.
Yeah, it was just absolutely insane. They did a very good job. But Fate Core also leaves it tells you, that you don't have to fill all those out.
Right.
Some of those can be added as you play. So it's real forgiving that way too. So it worked out amazingly well, actually.
Yeah, that is one of the neat things about Fate, or that it specifies in the rules that you can leave blank spaces on your character sheet to fill in later.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I've played a lot of games where you sit down and you create characters really quickly, and they just say, if you're not sure what this should be, just like if you don't know what languages you want, just fill them in as we go, right? Or if you don't know what skills you need, just fill them in as we go. Like that can be a really cool way to play, especially if it's a one shot or if it's a short couple sessions, to make sure that the things you chose are going to come up, because you can just choose them as they're needed. But
Turning
not everybody
all games into blades.
Yeah. Not everybody likes that style of play, though, right? They want to feel rewarded for the choices they made beforehand versus being given the option to just choose the thing that's necessary. So that's an interesting dichotomy I've noticed between players. Like I like open space, like I like open things to just, it'd be really cool if my character spoke Draconic right now, and it just fill it in, right? Or versus, no, I took Undercommon, I can understand them like that. Like that's a different kind of player.
Yeah.
So how much backstory did your players actually create when they were making their characters?
Well, there were some that had like a quite a bit of backstory, and they, like I said, they wanted to be brothers. They had worked for this company for a long time. They were the higher up security guys. Like my lab tech guy was, somebody that worked his way into the company, and is now doing shenanigans behind the scenes in his own little lab, and then I've got a couple guys that honestly really didn't, and that's just who they are, I think, as people, as well as the janitor, kind of really wants to run amok, through doing what he wants, but doesn't want to be noticed. Doesn't want anyone, he doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue or a whole lot of backstory whatsoever. Just the guy that is in the B1, floor, and has a lock on the door, and nobody really talks to him or messes with him, and nobody even really knows who he is.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I like going into games with a little bit of backstory. Not like a ton, not like, several pages or anything, but enough to be able to make decisions as the character. Like what about you guys? What's your preference on?
Much the same. I feel the aspect system of Fate does a really good job of giving you, here's the Reader's Digest of my character. I'll get into the more specifics or later, but this is the quick hits. Here's 5 interesting things about me that you can use to inform your decisions. Other systems do similar things. Like flaws or perks in different games also kind of lend towards that. Why do you have a phobia to spiders?
Right.
Yeah. All those kind of things. They can inform that backstory, even though they might not necessarily give you a direct tie-in.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say something that I've learned through, having been introduced to RPGs through this, through our Pixel Scandal group, is I've had the luxury of learning that I really don't care for that character gen that locks you into something, and then you could be, you find out that your character is just this useless sack of shit for the rest of the campaign, and you're just locked into role playing this person. Like, and that's difficult to do, and it's difficult to want to do. Now, mind you, I'm not saying that that's happened. I'm saying that I can certainly see that happening.
Yeah.
But so I've kind of more so fallen in love with the storytelling, less rigid systems, because of the way I play and the way the things that I'm learning that I enjoy, which is that of being able to adapt and build the character as the story plot moves. that's when I can really feel. That's when I feel like I can sink into a character the most. Yes. I think 10 Candles was great for that. There's been a few games.
Just enough at the open, and then you sort of like found who the character was through play.
Yeah, you could just really sink your teeth into it.
What about
Excuse me.
What about you, Oreztes? What's your preference?
Uh,
Nap time, is that your preference?
yeah. For what? Because I don't know.
How much backstory do you like to have in a character when
Yeah.
you sit down at a table?
None. You don't do backstory when you sit down at the table. You do mechanics at the table, and you build the backstory as the game progresses.
Okay.
That's how I like doing it.
So you prefer a complete blank slate.
Yeah.
And then you find out who the character is through play.
Yeah.
Like as you make choices, you're like, oh shit, I just killed that person. I guess I'm a person who kills people. Why did I do that? That kind of stuff. Or
I mean, I like having some idea, but I don't like putting anything concrete unless you're doing something like Savage Worlds, where you have to have hindrances that can kind of determine some elements of your backstory. But for the most part, I like just making a character mechanically, building one that sounds interesting and fun to play.
mm-hmm.
And then I like coming up with story as the game progresses and interacting with other players and stuff.
Yeah, you definitely love interacting with other players, especially fucking players over, I think, is what you like to do.
What?
I don't know about
play
that.
Sorry.
I play support,
Sorry.
bro.
So-
I'm bitter because of the game that we played.
So EndofLine, as someone who doesn't normally make their own character, how much backstory do you like coming into a game with?
So much backstory.
I enjoy campaigns a lot better if there's predeterminate bonds before the game starts.
Mm.
I like to know that some of the characters have had a backstory with each other, that there's been a predetermined relationship, and I don't think that doing that necessarily means you can't develop story as the game goes. It just gives you a jump off. Like you're kind of already aware. Like I think back to Shadowrun with Gidget and I being sister and brother. Like that tremendously increased the value of the game for me because we had a relationship, and as her character developed and changed, like we had a bond and a relationship, and she was trying to protect me, and my character was evolving. Her character was evolving to a murder hobo, and we had to just but we had to go through those story arcs. It made it a lot more interesting as the game changed. Like as our characters evolved, there was a flavor of having the relationship on top of it. It like laid on top of the development. So I like to have like a baseline relationship and bonds created before the. It doesn't need to be like huge, but just general.
Yeah.
I really like how so much of that game, as she went full murder hobo, was her hiding you from that aspect of herself.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's
like, he can't know.
She's like, can you guys keep an eye on my brother for a minute? I gotta go do a thing.
And then just murder a whole room of people.
Yeah.
Like, no, they were like this when we found them.
So you guys had the same relationship that Dexter and what's her face had. You were the brother and
Dead.
Yeah.
She was not only physically protecting me, she was trying to emotionally protect me.
Yeah.
So when that first relationship was established, I was keeping a very close eye on that because the last time EndofLine and Gidget played brother and sister was in Brass Bravado, not Gidget, but the last time EndofLine played brother and sister relationship with another player was in our Brass Bravado game, and that situation went entirely wrong. I think that relationship is what brought about the end of that game.
I was going to say, as far as character bonds go, I think it's really useful, especially in shorter term games.
Mm-hmm.
Having those up front, more so than even backstory, bonds inform your character's decisions so much more, I find.
Yeah.
One example I'm always brought back to is the Star Wars game we played years ago with
Tanaka.
That's the one.
Did you play a Star Wars game?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was the Order 76 or whatever.
Yeah,
It was like one of the 15 Star Wars games we've played where we could never ever be Jedis or Sith.
We were the stormtroopers during
There
one
was,
of those.
No, there was 2 Jedi. Yeah, there was 2 Jedis there, and I played a stormtrooper.
You played a what? You cut out for me.
A force sensitive stormtrooper, so a little bit of forciness, but the game had.
That's right, because we were supposed to turn on the Jedis because there were 2 in the party.
Yeah, and the game started with a list of your priority system in relation to the characters. Like, do you believe in the Empire? Do you believe in your friends? Do you believe in something else? And it allowed you to inform your decisions when this the order came through, kill all Jedi. Well, there are now 2 people at the table that need to die.
Right.
What is your priority for that?
Was that the one where we just jumped into our ships and took off? Where the pilots took off and crashed.
So Gidget got into a romance with another character, so they got into a ship. The pilot of the ship failed miserably, and they crashed and both died.
Yeah.
The other good. Jedi, I don't remember who that was offhand, but they got in a ship with someone else, and they lived happily ever after. And then the one stormtrooper who was with us was that was like Empire first, kill all the Jedi, everything. He ended up not making it out of there. It went very poorly for him.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very interesting game.
It was neat. I do like the here's your priority of who you care about most, right? When I played Inheritance, it's the 9-person Viking LARP. It's at Big Bad Con. You get these little character books because your character's predefined. Like, you don't create characters for it. And it says, like, here's what you think about the other people in the thing, and here's what your like goal, like your primary drive is, and here's what you want out of this whole encounter that you're about to have. And so it gives you this really neat thing, like, oh well, I can make a deal with so and so because it doesn't, like, as long as it screws over this other person that I hate, right? Like you had this cool like hierarchy. And I think that's missing a lot of times in like one shots where there's going to be betrayal. Is you don't have that to rely on. Like, oh, your character would definitely screw over so and so if you could save X, right? And I think it made it. It gave you that bootstrap, right? To this is how I'm going to play my character, which was really neat.
Especially if you're the non-primary character on either side of the betrayal. It's like, who am I going to side with? Well, he's being an ass, but he's right, kind of thing. So that little bit definitely helps. It's kind of, in general, those bonds or priorities are something that's definitely lacking from the trope of you meet in a bar kind of situation, you meet in a tavern, which is kind of a trope / capstone for the entire hobby.
Right, for the D&D side of it anyways.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I know that going into this, I knew that I wanted to throw that to the wayside as much as I could and force the characters into basically the situation where they would either know each other in passing or at least would consider themselves as work mates or whatever you would, because I just know my friends and I know the group, and if I say you meet, so you guys all meet up here, right? They're all gonna be like
why should I trust
their
you?
own business at their own table, and which is it's fine because for me, it be at my first RPG or whatever, it's difficult. It's a little awkward being it puts you outside of your own comfort zone to say you meet this stranger or a group of strangers. Now, what do you do? What do you have to say? What does your character do? And you go, oh, fuck, I don't even know my own fucking character yet.
Yeah.
I don't. So I knew that I wanted to throw that out the window and just create that something that would at least alleviate some of that.
Yeah, like give them a reason to trust each other out of the gate.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
Now it could be
probably
fun. Oh, good.
So that's probably one of my favorite creations with the more modern type systems is the creating backstories and bonds or creating character connections before the game starts. Because in more traditional systems like D&D, it's like, yeah, you're all at an inn, you don't know any of these people. What do? Like I like having the connections ahead of time. So it's like, well, I know this person is my buddy. I know this person is a jerk. So I like having that.
Yeah, they don't always
ahead
have
of
to be
time.
positive connections either,
Yeah.
right? It's just how do I know you and how do I interact with you without
Yeah.
the like, oh, so when anytime superheroes meet, they have to fight, right? Like, so that you end up you get to the first encounter and it's like, oh, why should I trust you? Like knives at each other, before you trust each other. So it sounds like everybody kind of likes having the bonds in games.
I'm just going to interject real quick. There is definitely a viable reason to have that. You show up, you don't know anybody, you're not really sure if you can trust someone. The problem is in a lot of systems that don't have the bonds or just say, yeah, you start in an inn or start in a tavern kind of thing. They don't do anything interesting with that.
Right.
You don't trust anyone. Okay, let's go adventure.
Yeah.
But getting in there and having a group of people who don't trust each other but are forced to work with each other does lead to some interesting situations. It's something you definitely hit on often if you're going for the morally gray or
right
flat out black, morally black kind of game.
Cabal of Shadows.
Yeah, Cabal of Shadows kind of game.
Yeah,
or even
you can't do
Shadowrun.
that. Cabal.
Shadowrun kind of lends itself to that as well, where it's you guys are all contractors. You may have worked together, but might not have.
Yeah.
I could see that being fun if everyone is bought into it, right? Like if everyone is like, okay, but who do I trust, right? And I almost want there to be a mechanism in the game where it's like, okay, what do you place, what's the hierarchy, right? Like the job, like if say we go with Shadowrun, like is it the job has to get done no matter what? Is it the people have to get out safe no matter what? Is it so everyone kind of has this established hierarchy of the things they give a shit about, so that when you do go into the game and it's like, it's not, there's no like, oh, we're fighting because we are confused about how to roleplay this scene. It's we're arguing because our duties are in conflict.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that you're creating a structure. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to strictly follow that. For instance, just because I have a relationship with Oreztes and we've been friends, doesn't mean I'm not going to side with my money over him. So if in the case of Shadowrun, me succeeding the mission and my reputation and getting that dollar may be more important than my relationship with him. So it may change, and it doesn't necessarily mean you strictly have to follow it. It's meant to be a guideline, right?
It's
I was just gonna say,
it's more like guidelines.
It's I have to trim the hedges back in the fall, so it's just a guide, John.
Yeah, but don't be afraid to let the story do what the story is going to do. Don't like saddle yourself just because, well, we're buddies or I have a history with this person. No. If your character would do a thing, it's important that you be true to the character and do that thing. Like I think that's more fun for everyone. Yeah. Don't shackle yourself just because you have this preconceived notion of like what set up at the beginning of the game or what happened previously.
Plus, you end up in interesting situations. If you've gone in and your priority is, every man will get out, no man left behind kind of situation, and someone, something bad happens, and now it's, do you have to sacrifice your character to get somebody out because the rest of the team doesn't give a damn and they want it? It went sour. What do you do?
Yeah,
I mean. And that is an excellent aspect, right? Like nobody gets left behind is a great aspect for a character, because then it's anytime you're trying to save somebody, right? Like you're calling on that. But that's something that Fate excels at, like being able to put that and make that a central part of your character. Something that like a lot of PBTA or indie RPGs excel at is having those like drives or the bonds that sort of define your character. When you're playing just D&D or you're playing Shadowrun or something that doesn't have those, would you sort of force those on top, or how would you try to enact those bonds? What would you port something over? Like, what would you guys do?
There's some of it that can be done. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't looked very deep into 5th edition D&D, so I don't know if the flaws are still really a thing or not, or how thorough they are. But some of that can be handled with flaws, qualities, that kind of thing. A No Man Left Behind there is an actual flaw in Shadowrun 5th edition for. Not necessarily that, but I think it's a code of honor.
Right.
So some of those things can be handled with flaws. And then one of the best things to do for trad games in that case is to give a mechanical benefit for these quirks of role playing. I remember when I started our Cabal game, it was, I said, all right, you guys come up with, and every bond you guys come up with, you got a bonus stat or something like that. Some mechanical reason to, some benefit to doing it.
That's a neat idea.
In trad games, it's tough though, because if you're going to introduce some kind of mechanical benefit, now you're kind of opening it up to the min-maxers who are just going to be like, well, yeah, I'll do that just because I get my extra +2 to strength or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think it's tough with trad games because there is nothing, and by trad, I'm mostly speaking about D&D. I think that's like the default that everybody kind of goes to. There's not really any mechanic in there for introducing player, bonds or backstories. You could do like a background, and then even those are like, yeah, you're a noble, you get some fancy clothes and +2 to some skill or whatever. But in D&D, I mean, I feel like if it's the DM's job to enforce the players using what backgrounds they've chosen and stuff, just because there's really no mechanical advantage to it. Like if I can get a flanking bonus for being in character in combat, yeah, I'd be in character in combat, but you don't get that, so it's like, who cares?
That's I like the idea that you would take we're brothers because we get the flanking bonus. Like,
yeah,
just go
trad
through
games. That's what you do.
Just go through every feat and just be like, okay, explain to me how you got this and how this other character helped you get it, right?
Well,
like,
there's barbarian feats, tribal feats, where if you guys are from the same tribe, you take these same feats, you get this bonus that works with each other. That's a mechanic of backstory reinforcement in a trad game, but that requires multiple people ahead of time to waste a precious feat slot on getting this thing because they're in the same tribe or whatever.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's literally one of the stunts that the two brothers chose, is that whenever one of them was with the other, they were like boosted.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sure.
That's a great stunt. That's a cool stunt for Fate.
In Fate, that's great. In D&D, that's like, why?
Yeah, I mean, those exist. You're right, they do exist. But I'd love to see a little more like backstory built into the feats, right? Like, explain to me how you how can you use this weapon so well? Or you got this weird ass weapon? Who was the NPC that you're gonna put in my campaign that taught you how to use this? What is it, Guisarm or like whatever chain whip?
Nope, that's when you introduce Black Razor. And then this is your role play. You have an intelligent sword that just wants you to murder everything.
What you're describing is literally how I build most of my characters in most games, where I will come up with a character concept, start picking feats and abilities or gear, and then ask why. Mm-hmm. Why am I a mage? What led me down this career path? Who did I encounter along the way?
Why am I a bard that dual wields K-Tars?
That was a great character.
I do the same thing, and like 9 times out of 10, it seems to be because that is how I love creating a character, is coming up with a concept, right? creating this. Why is he the way he is? Why does he have the ideals that he has? Where did he get the information and the skills that he's gotten? And then I play the campaign, and a lot of times it's up to the GM to like just fit me in somehow because I make just oddball fucking choices.
Pro tip: most GMs are super stoked when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you say you're fighter, you got trained at the fighter college on top of the mountain, south of town.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That
Stab
adds,
Mountain.
Yeah,
Stab Mountain.
Yeah, Stab Mountain, south of town, the fighters college, that's run by a grizzled old fighter.
I don't see. I don't feel that way because when you're me and you're looking at the reactions of the characters that you've created, or you're asking about, can your character take this, and the rest of the players at the table, and your GM is doing this as you say the thing you're saying, doesn't feel like that's
yes, it does.
The same tone of which
Dude,
you just told me.
If you don't make your GM hang their head at least once during character creation, and you have not.
Guys, every single time we come to character gen, all right, I had a place mid-game. That's the shit I get when my character responds to.
Notice the similarity. Notice the common element in this. You.
Handor, that is definitely a struggle for new players. Like when you come to like my first character, I was playing D&D 4th edition, and I tried to make a ninja. Like there's no ninjas in D&D. Why would I do that? There was no there was nothing that made me want, like there's nothing saying, hey, there's the possibility of playing a ninja. It's
rogue.
Medieval Europe. Like why are you trying to do that?
You could be a rogue with throwing.
In PHB.
No. Like I was like, I'm a ninja. Because that was my first character. I didn't know what D&D was. Like, you make weird choices before you sort of get used to what the expected, what the settings are and how.
Well, that's for a GM to say, well, there's no ninjas in this era. However, thematically, let's set you up with this. This will be
right.
Or there are ninjas, and here is your rogue who wears a mask and sneaks and throws shurikens at people.
But that depends on the GM and the setting. Like if I believe Kurt started joining us at Living Greyhawk or something at the library. It was like organized.
It was the 4th ed organized play.
Yeah, so it wasn't as easy as just being like, sure, there's ninjas. It's like, no, here's a very strict set of rules that you have to follow to make this character. There is not a ninja. You are not a ninja. You are a rogue.
Yeah. Oh man, the first character I showed up with, I made I think a barbarian. With and I got to pick a flaming axe because 4th edition let you have like so many magic items based on like progression or whatever, and so I tried to make this like super cool, like, oh yeah, he flames up when he rages and all this stuff, and nobody gave a shit. They were just like, dude, fucking take the damage, just go up there and take the damage. We don't care about your backstory.
Yep. Yeah, so it's almost like you were craving that story game bullshit like early on when you were craving that type of gameplay.
I started GMing after my 3rd game because I was like, I need to tell more stories. Like, why wouldn't they let me tell my story?
Well, that's also table based, and also on top of that, having a living worlds tend to be
organized play is not good for like deep, rich backstory stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it can be. It definitely can be. It just needs to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And the player just has to realize it's not going to matter whatsoever, and it's for their own glory. It's for their own,
I don't know if you got out of the pale, like there was the Bakersfield one. They actually had a lot of player events where people actually participated in the world and did things and made changes to the environment. It just the pale sucked. And it was miserable, and I hated it, and we still need to burn it down.
I don't know why you saying Bakersfield, but me and Sal we're getting up to closing time here. It just made me realize once we finish up, I think I'm going to rewatch the Cloverfield with the what's the one with the kids? They want to make the film and the train.
That is really off topic. We'll come back to that. Does anybody have any final thoughts on character gen before we close out?
I want to say I want to say that your backstory about the barbarian training on Stab Mountain would be much more interesting if you were faced with a life of constant ridicule because you specialized in the Great Club and you were incapable of stabbing.
Right.
I think character generation for a barbarian would be much more interested if you were a blind, deaf 10-year-old barbarian.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But see, I set you guys up because now that's a character that gave you all sorts of feels.
That is true. We got
Yeah,
the
like
feels. If you're not sure what we're talking about, go back and watch Agents of SIP episode 3.
And I'm writing very mean letter to Gidget.
Yeah, then right, yeah. Send your hate mail to gidget@pixelscandal.com.
Yep. that was my 3-month slow play building up to that.
All right. Well, I think we covered a lot of like some character gen do's and don'ts. I definitely think, make characters together, figure out your bonds with the other players, unless there's a specific campaign reason for not knowing each other before you start, and make as much backstory as you want. Like, if you need 5 pages worth of backstory, write it. If you don't, find it out through play. Just make sure everyone at the table's kind of on board.
And don't expect your GM to read all 5 of those pages.
Yeah. Well. Oh yeah.
Implement anything that you have in there.
Definitely bold the names of the NPCs that you created so that they can just skim and find the NPCs and be like, all right, cool.
Your 5-page backstory is a resume. You need to highlight the important bits.
Yes. Put the bullet points at the top. Tell me how and when did your parents die?
It should just be Mad Libs.
Yeah.
Just how did your parents die? What horrible thing happened to you in childhood?
Who was the evil necromancer that did it?
Yeah.
By
Where
the
are the
numbers,
phylacteries?
character gen.
But as everything we say, there's a perfectly legitimate reason to ignore absolutely everything that we've discussed, and just be aware that you're doing it and answer and figure out why you're doing it and use it to build interesting stories.
Yeah. For sure. All right. Well, since Gidget's... anything else?
Cloverfield.
Oh my God. Since Gidget's not here, I'm going to tell you where you can find us on the internet. You can find us at pixelscandal.com if you want to find back episodes of this show. We're a little behind on getting those up, but you can find some of our back episodes there. If you want the most recent episodes, you can find those on our YouTube or on our Twitch. YouTube, just search Pixel Scandal because we don't have a custom URL yet, or twitch.tv/pixelscandal, where you can find highlights of all of our nerdcasts and where we go live, and every once in a while we stream some video games or something like that. You can also support us by going to twitch.tv and /pixelscandal and subscribing, or by heading over to patreon.com/pixelscandal and becoming a patron, where we've got some neat little backer rewards. And if you want to keep up with us day-to-day type stuff, you can follow us on Twitter at Pixel Scandal, Instagram at Pixel Scandal, and Facebook at Pixel Scandal Show. All right. Anybody else?
Nope.
That's it.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us, everybody, for Pixel Scandal Nerdcast episode 57. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Love you.
Love you.